Hello, BookTube. Okay, so today I wanted to do a video about my Pride recommendations. Some of these are also like women's history and like gender studies kind of stuff, so it's not all like exclusively LGBTQ plus people, but I didn't do anything for Women's History Month, so this is kind of my version of that as well. Okay, first off, I have The Color Purple by Alice Walker. This is one of my favorite books. I haven't read it in a long time, and I really want to reread it. But it's about a woman who is black, living in the South, and is married, or her dad abuses her, I think, and then she gets married to a man who also abuses her. But then she finds love with a woman. And so it's her dealing with that, and it's all from her perspective, and she's writing to God in letters, and she's very naive and innocent, but she's still like an adult woman, so it's an interesting parallel. But yeah, so it's a great book, highly recommend. It's very sad, I cried a lot, but I love it. Okay, then I have The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir. This is a dense book. I've talked about it already, but and it was hard to read. It's a lot of like philosophy and like where does the patriarchy come from and stuff. And it's not all like positive either. It was written in the 50s, so a lot of it is outdated, but it's still interesting to read, and I like feminist theory, so I enjoyed it. But there's a whole chapter just on lesbianism, and there are interesting expressions like why someone would turn to lesbianism, which is problematic, but it's still interesting, and it's a different time, so I feel like you kind of have to, move on from that. Yes. Then I have Ruth Bader Ginsburg in her own words. So I've talked about this before, but it's a little series of quotes, and they're all by her. I spilled tea on this, by the way, that's why it looks kind of gross. But there's like equal justice under the law chapters, and they're all quotes, and it's just interesting. Learn more about the justice system and stuff. But yeah, very accessible, easy to read. Then I have West with the Night. With the Night. I always say West in the Night, whatever. West with the Night. This is about a woman who was a pilot in Africa. Yes, there are some racist terms. I think it was written in the 20s. There are some racist terms to trigger warning, I guess. But it kind of tells her journeys, and it's not that much about like being a woman, but I just think she's a cool figure that nobody really talks about. And she talks about traveling from Africa. The writing when she's talking about Africa is really, really pretty. So yeah, that's that. Then I have my Rad Women books. These are published by City Lights Bookstore, which also publishes stuff. And they triumph women of color and minority writers and stuff. So yeah, so there are Rad Women. This is Rad Women A to Z, and they're all American, and there's figures like Amelia Earhart and I don't know, what's Patti Smith, and people you've never heard of. So it's really cool. And then this one is worldwide, so there's people like Malala and Frida Kahlo and cool soccer players and like other people I never knew about. And here's like the map, so they go like around the world. And there's so many more women, but it's just cool to learn about like women you've never heard of. And they all have like a page entry, so it's like easy to read. But yeah. And then I have We Should All Be Feminists, and I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation of the name. If you know how to say it, phonetically spell it out for me. I would love to learn how to say her name because I really like her writing, but I don't know how to say it. So this is a manuscript of her TED Talk, though, and it talks about what it's like to be a feminist in Nigeria. And it's short and it's easy to read. It's very small. But yeah, and I think this is the kind of book that I'm like, everybody should read this, because if you read this, you'll have a whole different outlook on feminism and on our world and why it's so important to be a feminist. And like, as a feminist, I wasn't like, I'm changed, but someone that might not be, I think it would have more of an impact. So yeah, that's that. Then I have The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan. This is, wow, this kind of changed my life. It was written in the 50s, published in 63, I think. But it changed the way women were in the world. And it's crazy. If you've seen Mad Men, like, watch Mad Men, first off. I should do a video where I talk about my favorite shows. Gonna do that. But women used to be, because of people like Freud that talked about like separate spheres, ideology, and things like that. I might be butchering that. I'm not sure, but she talks a lot about Freud in here, though, more eloquently than I could. But because of various philosophers, everybody thought that women were separate. Not everybody, but a lot of people thought that women were separate, that women should do this, that women should be housewives, and so everybody just, like, was a housewife. People would get their, like, MRS in college, and, like, it wasn't about, like, getting a career or being fulfilled. It was about having a family. And so then there was this huge group of women that was struggling with not being fulfilled, not having enough in their lives. And then Betty Friedan was like, this is the problem that has no name. This is, so many women are dealing with this and we're not talking about it. And she, like, changed the game. Like, she was like, brought this into the world and was like, this is why you're unhappy. Like, this is why women shouldn't be just housewives. This is why women deserve just as much as men do. And so it's beautiful. It's a lot of, like, she'll talk about different studies, and it gets technical, but it's very impactful. So I recommend that. And, like, as a woman living now, like, I'm so grateful to people like Betty Friedan for, like, paving the way for me, kind of. Okay, then I have Feminism and Pop Culture. This is, like, a short little book. It's, it has different, like, talks about women on TV and women in music and different kinds of things like that. But this, someone just gave to me because they read it in a class. So, yeah, but it's easy to read, it's short, and it gives you kind of an overview. So, yeah, and it's not too technical if you're not into studies and things like that. Okay, then I have a novel, because I haven't had a lot of novels. This is I'll Give You the Sun. I'm sure most people on BookTube has read this, but it's about twins. One of them is gay, that's why I thought I'd include this. But it's just, it's powerful, it's sweet, the writing's really pretty. Yeah, I really liked it. Highly recommend. Yep, that's all I have to say about that. Then I also have something that probably everyone has read, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I guess I included this because there are some gay themes. There's the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is pretty gay. It's great writing, it's sad, it's pretty. Yeah, if you haven't read it, which I doubt, read it. Then my final book is The Secret History of Wonder Woman. This is, oh, I love this book. It goes into the history of William Marston something. That's not his name. What's his name? Shoot, I can't remember. The author of Wonder Woman, the guy that started Wonder Woman, and his life. And he was, so he was in like a throuple, I guess. He was married to a woman, and then they also had another woman that was living with them that they like had as like a sexual partner. So I guess they were polyamorous. That would be the word. And she like was the mother of some of their kids, but they just called her like the nanny and didn't tell the kids that she was the mom and stuff. But yeah, so his story's really interesting, not only because of that and like that whole thing, but because he was surrounded by beautiful, strong women, he was so inspired to like make something for them. So this is kind of his like passion project, and he gave Wonder Woman all of the qualities of his favorite women, which I think is really cool. And yeah, and he was inspired by the suffragettes and wanted to, I don't know, champion women. So that's what he did. Yeah, so I really recommend that. It's a great book. Also, like, the author's really cool, and my history teacher knows her, so shout out to Miss Cooper for knowing Jill Lepore. But, yeah. So those are my women's history and pride books. There are much more women's history than pride books in here, but if you have pride recommendations, please give them to me. I would love some. I don't read a lot of young adult anymore, which I think is why it's hard for me to find LGBTQ plus stories. And I know they exist, and I'm gonna do a like TBR of, even though I don't do TBRs, I'm gonna do like a sort of TBR of the gay books I want to read and women's history books that I have that I need to read. So, yes. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe. I gained a couple new subscribers, so thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. If you have a booktube channel, leave the link in the description or in the comments, and I will watch it and like check it out and subscribe to you also. Because I'm all about like supporting the small YouTubers. So yeah, okay. Bye.